All right. Well, I reckon that probably brings us through to our session for tonight. So I'm really excited to introduce to you Allison Poutu. So she works in AI. She's been a sort of a trainer in corporate and in small business as well too. And the topic tonight really is about, prompt engineering, which is, one of the new sort of occupations, as I've talked about, or new careers. And Allison sort of does a lot of training of people around that sort of area there. So that's really her specialty there. So she's a real advocate of, the transforming power of AI. And she's got something really exciting tonight that she's launched as well, sort of a while back. So I won't steal her thunder on that there. But she's really helping in the AI community with something that she has launched recently, which no doubt she's going to talk to you about as well too. So she works at Biz Insights, and she is an instructor of the AI Applied Prompt Engineer course, and so training the trainer workshop. And she's got a whole lot of words in there that I've never heard of before, and I don't understand, but it really sort of is part of what makes the AI world sort of tick and spin around too, and what sort of is helping people in these new areas, both businesses and people sort of looking for new careers as well too. So it is my pleasure to welcome along Allison to tonight. And so let's give her a big round of applause as she steps onto the virtual stage.
Thank you, Nick. Just want to check with you, what time do you want me to finish up?
So we wrap up at 7:30 tonight. So yeah, so maybe sort of through about 25 past, so we'll do the prize draw and then we'll finish up.
100%. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry to disappoint, but this is not about artificial insemination. It's about artificial intelligence. As Nick said, my name is Allison Poutu. Just want to give you a little bit of a background as to who I am. The primary focus for that is just so you can understand sort of where I'm coming from and where I am now in terms of AI. And so as Nick mentioned, I've got a fair bit of experience in corporate training, both over in London, in a sales and marketing company over there. Here in Australia, I worked with the Westpac Group doing training for a number of their products and services. And I've worked in registered training organizations in Australia. When COVID hit, like I'm sure many of us did, I was reevaluating my life choices and decided that the journey into entrepreneurship, it was the perfect time to head down that area. And so I wrote a children's book, I self-published, and then moved into doing sales and marketing work with my business partner. And we started doing some work for a registered training organization around their sales and marketing. And that's really when I started getting into AI. So that was probably around November, December 2022, when ChatGPT first was launched and became a thing. Initially, I thought, oh, what's this rubbish? And all I'd heard about is students plagiarizing stuff, and I was really dismissive. But luckily, my business partner is very progressive, and he said, no, let's have a look at this. So we started in our journey there. So initially, I did a little bit of work with AI around registered training organizations and sales and marketing. And then we moved into looking at how we as a business could use it. We created several toolkits that helped business owners to essentially get the questions that they needed to ask the large language models like ChatGPT to be able to get responses. And we had a number of different toolkits, and they were quite popular with educational institutions. But as AI advanced, our toolkits actually became a lot more redundant, and we realized that. And that's one of the good and bad things about AI, is that it's developing at such a rapid rate. So if you're not getting on board now, you're already about 18 months behind the 8 ball. So, the sooner you get on board, the better, basically. We then decided to look at really what is the most important part of AI and large language models like ChatGPT. And that came into training, and training people specifically how to communicate with the large language models. And that's sort of why I wanted to focus on talking about prompt engineering, what prompt engineering is, etc. When I first spoke to Nick, I was going to focus more on a prompt, like how do you use this prompt to do this? But my development and I could say my evolution with AI has really emphasized to me the importance of communicating with large language models. So I'll just share my screen. I've got a presentation just so we can have a look at some things together. So what I'm going to be running through is why every business needs to train or to hire an AI prompt engineer. So first of all, what we'll cover is just really what is an AI prompt engineer. As Nick said, it's quite a new word. It's a term that's been phrased over the last 18 months, and there's many different ways of saying AI prompt engineers, and I'll cover that shortly. I'll talk about the benefits to businesses of hiring or training an AI prompt engineer, career pathways for AI prompt engineers, a few real-world applications, and those I'm going to be very personal with and just talk about my personal journey with AI prompt engineering and why I feel it's so essential in terms of how I've been able to develop. And there's one that I know, Nick, you were actually saying some words and I was smiling because I thought when I think people in your space here, they'll really understand the impact of what I'm saying. And hopefully I'll be able to articulate the impact to those that don't really understand that area of business so that you'd understand the impact of what I'm saying. I'll talk a little bit about future trends and then just some implementation strategies. And then I'll just cover what our door prize is and our new sort of focus that we are going in as a business. So first of all, I do apologize for some of you. This might be like, oh yeah, I know this. But one thing that I have learned with AI is just not to make assumptions. I tend to think that everybody knows what ChatGPT is, what a large language model is, what a prompt is, etc. And there are people that don't. So for those of you that already know this information, please bear with me. I'm more speaking to those that are unsure. When we talk about large language models like ChatGPT, I just want to speak a little bit about what they are and what they aren't, because I think sometimes people have a bit of a misconception as to what they are and how they function. So if I were to say to you, imagine somebody that has spent the last, 50, 60, 70 years going through things like books, articles, websites, social media posts, encyclopedias, instructional materials, government publications, legal documents, corporate websites, scientific journals, etc., all those things you can see on the screen. And they are able to retrieve the information that they have learned, process it, and then apply it to questions that you ask. That is a very simplified version of what what large language models are. Large language models don't just regurgitate information. So it's not like it learns something and you ask it and it just spits out exactly the same thing. That's why a lot of the court cases against companies like OpenAI haven't been successful because of the way large language models are able to retrieve and process and then apply information. Let's say, for example, you watched 15 different YouTube videos on how to make pumpkin soup. And out of that information, you perfected this wonderful pumpkin soup recipe and you went and sold it in your restaurant and you made money from it. You couldn't go and sue, the YouTubers couldn't go and sue you for watching their video about a pumpkin soup and then making money from it. Because essentially you have retrieved information, you've processed it and applied it. So it's a little bit of an insight as to why a lot of the court cases aren't successful because of the way in which these large language models process information. Now, a lot of large language models are either free or low cost, which means you would be getting access to all this information: books, articles, social media posts, technical specifications, white papers, product descriptions, etc., etc. And that's why large language models are so powerful. They have a ton of information, but there is a catch with regards to that information, which I'll get to shortly. So large language models, they use natural language. So as I'm speaking to you now, you can interact with them, which means you don't need to know any code. You don't need to know anything technical. You just need to be able to communicate. And that's something that I feel is the most vital part of dealing with large language models, ChatGPT, whichever is your favorite, is natural language. There's many available, free or low cost, which means you can start using them today. I've got a couple up there on the screen. Claude has actually changed. They've got a newer version, and so does GPT. So they are updating and changing all the time. So that gives me to prompts. As I said about that there's a catch with large language models. Yes, you have access to all this information, that the prompt, in other words, the inputs that you give the large language models to communicate with them and to guide them to give you a response or an output, that is super, super essential. Any of you that have used ChatGPT or any of the large language models before, I feel will know exactly what I'm talking about. The way you ask it is going to influence the input that you get back. I've spent many, many, many times telling ChatGPT that it's not very smart and that it's the problem. But what I've learned over these years of using it is that it is not the problem. My communication is the problem. And if we think about communicating with one another, often the other person's not the problem. It's our communication with them or the misunderstanding that's the problem. And that's how these large language models have been developed. They are natural language processing. So we really need to look and go, well, if I'm getting garbage, what am I asking? If I'm getting something back that's very generic and boring, why is it doing this? How can I tweak what I'm saying or asking these large language models to get information back? One of my favorite sayings at the moment is that people underestimate what large language models are capable of, but they overestimate what they can do with large language models because of the way they communicate with them. And what I mean by that is people think that ChatGPT, and this comes from experience of training a few people, or training a lot of people and interacting with people within social media, is that people say, well, they done. I put this thing and it gave me this really boring piece of content back, and the copy was rubbish. But they think that that's the only thing that AI can do. AI is only good for writing copy, or AI is only good for specific things, or large language models are only good for specific things. So they're really underestimating what all they can do with large language models, but then overestimating what they can do. Because if you think you can go to a large language model and say, write me a blog post about Nick Free's website last night and it's going to be fabulous, it won't be. You need to give context, and there's lots of communication tools that you need to input to be able to get decent information out or decent content out. So that brings me to AI prompt engineers. Now, a few years ago, when I was working in corporate, we would refer to human resources as HR or human resources. Now I believe that the term is people and culture. So don't get too caught up by the term AI prompt engineer, because there are many different names for different things. So as I said, it used to be HR, now it's people and culture. So you might have come across titles that do the same thing as AI prompt engineers, but they're not called prompt engineers, or you can choose to call them AI specialists, whatever floats your boat. I just use the term AI prompt engineer because it's quite a well-known term in the AI space. So essentially what an AI prompt engineer is someone who has mastered the art of communicating with AI. So that means that you're creating the right questions, you're setting the right tasks or commandments, which are prompts, and that leads you to be able to unlock what AI has got available for you. There is so much you can do with large language models, again, if you know how to communicate with them properly. And if you're finding that your journey with AI is very segmented, or you're not getting the results that you want in a particular area, then I'd say look at the communication. That would be where the problem is. So why businesses need to hire or train their staff to become effective prompt engineers? Primarily, it's down to you've got one person who can do multiple roles. So you could have somebody who can analyze data for you. So now suddenly in your business, you've got a data analyst or a business analyst. If you are able to have an effective prompt engineer who can generate great content, now you have a content creator or a marketing specialist in your business. If you have, for example, someone that can strategize time management very well using AI or using large language models, you've got a project manager or an executive assistant. If you've got somebody that can draft great emails, you've got a communication officer, PR manager, etc. So instead of looking for specialized people in each of these different fields, if you have trained an effective prompt engineer, trained yourself or someone in your organization to be an effective prompt engineer, you have literally unlocked pretty much any role available to you. And I hope that the real world applications that I provide you, that are what we used in our business, will really cement what that means. Large language models are far more than just creating content. That's really the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that they can do. Any area that you think is inaccessible to you, I would hazard a guess, is accessible to you if you know how to communicate with the large language models properly. I know that sounds like a really bold claim, but I have, over the last month, had experience that's really, really cemented that for me. And as I said, I'm hoping as I share that with you in the real world applications that will become apparent. So if we think about what every business wants, or every business owner wants, it's success. Now, success may look very different depending on your business or depending on your values or your outlook. Success might be a particular financial goal, or it could be time freedom, or it could be leaving a legacy for family, etc. But every business goes into business to be successful. In doing a lot of research for our products and just connecting with business owners, one thing that we've found really startling is the amount of businesses that fail. Even for myself, my parents are entrepreneurs. They ran a pottery supply business in South Africa for many years. And when the industry changed, so we have, it's kind of similar to Kmart. It's called Mr. Price in South Africa. And when Mr. Price came into fashion, people would rather buy like a mug from Mr. Price, which would cost like $2, than buying a mug from an artist, which would cost like $20. So as a result of that and the industry change, my parents' business, which was really successful in the early sort of 80s and 90s, kind of petered out, and they ended up selling it for far less than it was worth when it was at its peak. So as the child of entrepreneurs and as the child of entrepreneurs that were successful, but then the industry shifted and they weren't able to adapt, I know how painful that can be, both for the business owners as well as family. So for me, the beauty of these large language models is that you have access to knowledge. You can apply that knowledge, you can make better decisions, and you can be successful. But again, we're only scratching the surface. If we're just using large language models for content creation, or just using it for one or two little aspects of our business, we're really just scratching the surface. And that's something, again, in my journey in our business, we've really noticed. Initially, we just used it as, okay, well, let's try and do a little bit of marketing content for it. And now what we're using for is far removed from just marketing content. But again, the catch, the caveat comes in that you need to know how to effectively communicate with these large language models. So just to focus a little bit on career pathways for AI prompt engineers. So if you yourself are thinking, right, I'd like to become an AI prompt engineer, what kind of career pathways do I have, or what's available to me? There's a nice picture of a pearl there, and all the images in the PowerPoint have been generated by AI as well. But that image, it's the pearl. The world really is your oyster. You have got so many things at your disposal, even if there are things that you think you're not capable of doing now. If you learn how to communicate effectively with large language models, they are within reach. A couple of things that you can do as a prompt engineer is you could freelance, for example, so you could offer your services out to businesses. You could become a consultant, you could become a trainer, or you could go into corporate. In terms of the actual roles that you want to pick, I mean, pick your flavor. If you have a specific area that you've got experience in, whether that's marketing or web development, etc., you can incorporate that in with large language models and then sort of be able to
sales pitches and all of that sort of stuff with me at the same time as doing your blueprint with third.
That's a bit of interference there. Thanks, Nick. But yeah, the world really is your oyster in terms of where do you want to go as a prompt engineer. You can kind of choose your own adventure, really. And that's, again, something that I know I keep saying it, but I will get to it when we talk about the real world applications. But that's something that's really been cemented for me in the last month. Now, it's funny because Nick and I spoke about doing the webinar probably, it was more than a month ago, I think, Nick, it was.
Must be longer.
Yeah, I think it was longer than that. And initially, sort of my thoughts were just talking about, as I said, a couple of prompts to do specific things. But I'm so grateful that we actually had quite a long break in between when Nick and I first spoke and doing this webinar, because the joy that I've experienced with large language models and where I am now is so different. And even though it's been maybe a month or two, the acceleration of knowledge that I've experienced has been absolutely phenomenal. And again, this comes down to being able to communicate effectively with large language models. So AI is just a tool, as we've mentioned before. It's not something that's going to completely do away with your own intelligence or do away with the direction that you want to go in your business. It's a fantastic tool, and it's really a tool that I feel as a business owner is absolutely 100% essential for you to start using it. And even if you're using it in your infancy and it's a bit messy, it's fine, just start using it. Think about like Facebook or Google. If you don't have a website, if you don't have some sort of social presence, if you're not keeping up with where everybody else is, you'd fall behind as a business. If you as a business only put out newspaper ads, I hazard a guess that you wouldn't be doing too crash hot. So yes, there's a lot of talk about AI as a buzzword, etc., but it's so essential, and not so much essential in terms of keeping up with everybody else, but essential to expand who you are as a business owner. And I'm nearly getting to telling you why and how I know this. We're coming to the application shortly. Right, so personal applications. So at Biz Insights AU, as I said, our main goal is really to connect. You've got the little robot on the side and the businesses on the other side, and in between is the speech bubble. We're really passionate about helping people to connect with these large language models through how they communicate with them. And for me, the proof is in the pudding. So if I'm not using AI effectively in my own business, then how can I ever tell people and want to teach people how to use it effectively? So it took exactly 28 days. So I started on the 26th of June and finished on the about 28th of July. So this is roughly about 28 days. I have got no coding experience. I didn't know, I'd heard of HTML code before. I'd never heard of CSS code before, and I'd never heard of JavaScript. I didn't actually even know what they were. As I said, HTML I'd sort of heard before because I'd used sort of those drag and drop website builders and things like that. So I sort of had an idea of what they were, but I'd never actually written a line of code in my life before. And in less than 28 days, well, about 28 days, I have written a fully functional website. It's the AI prompt competition, so it's www.promptcom.biz if you want to have a look at what a website made by AI looks like. And when I'm talking about made by AI, I'm not talking about that it created the website for me. I'm talking about I had a blank page, actually used Adobe Dreamweaver, which I'd never used before, never heard before. And I, in conjunction with ChatGPT, actually wrote the HTML and CSS code. Now, for those of you, as I said, Nick, you've been in web development for a while, and I'm sure that saying that sort of makes sense to you in that it's absolutely mind-blowing to create a website from scratch in that amount of time. And I'm not talking about a one-page. I mean, feel free to go and have a look at the website. I'm not talking about a one-pager. There are at least, in total, I'd say probably about 30 different pages. There are like scrollable elements. There is a payment integration. For those of you that have maybe used PayPal before, you can get the little PayPal button and just stick it on your website. But I was actually able to integrate PayPal with a drop down, so you could choose different options and integrate PayPal completely into the website. I created 2 different forms. And there was another thing, PHP. I'd never heard of PHP before. I didn't even know there was such a thing called PHP. I was able to create 3 different PHP forms, one to get subscribers, so if someone puts in their details and subscribes, and the other 2 to actually fill out information, send me an email and send them back an email. Now, to me, that is absolutely mind-blowing. I'd never written a single piece of code in my life, and I was able to create this website. Now, why was I able to do that? Am I an expert coder secretly? No, but I know how to communicate effectively with large language models. I know how to ask the large language model for what I want. I've got a friend who's actually a web developer, and he was saying, but he asks ChatGPT for specific code, and it keeps referencing old code that's irrelevant. I was thinking, what's he talking about? Like, I don't understand what he means. But that to me really showed that the real gold in communicating with large language models and being an AI prompt engineer is knowing how to communicate with it. And that's natural language processing. That's not coding. I didn't have any, as I said, any technical experience whatsoever. If I didn't know something, I would ask, what does this mean? And I'd get the answer and I'd be able to build it. So for me, as I said, the essence, the essentialness of being able to communicate with large language models, I can't overemphasize. As a business owner, if I had gone and asked a web developer to develop this website for me, you'd be looking at 50 grand, 60 grand. We actually got a quote, this is going back a few years ago, to create a website that was sort of similar. One of our web developers that we knew quoted around 120, and the other one was 250,000. As a business owner, that's way out of my reach as a sort of a startup business owner. All I paid for was Adobe, which I've got the Premiere Pro, the whole tutti, which is about $45 a month. And I paid for ChatGPT, which is $22. And that was less than a month. So again, I can't overemphasize how important it is for you as a business owner to learn how to communicate with AI effectively. Now, do all of you want to build a website? Maybe, maybe not. But this is just one small area. Now, to be honest with you, I've got the confidence to build anything on that website. And there are other things that we're going to integrate. What it's also done is it's given me now confidence to go and look at other aspects of AI. And I started off with, AI is great for writing some marketing content. No, it's not. AI has helped me to build a fully functional website in less than a month. And as I said, I hope that those of you that have been involved in websites really, and I'm sure you understand it, but those that perhaps haven't been involved in building websites say, it's pretty big if you look at how websites work. So just a couple of other things that we have used websites for is market research. So we were able to find, this is going back a few years now, we were able to find who was specific markets for some of our toolkits that created. ChatGPT came up with looking at educational institutions, which we did, and we were able to sell a number of our toolkits there. Pricing strategies as well, we use it quite often to just determine different pricing strategies and why, and get validation or get justification as to why we're charging specific prices. Customer pain points we've used it for, email campaigns we've used it for, and social media content as well. Again, sometimes it's great just as a starting point and to get your sort of creative juices flowing, and other times it's absolutely essential just to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish, as I said, with the website. So I cannot overemphasize more how important it is to start using AI and large language models. So just to focus on the future now, I don't have a crystal ball when it comes to everything that they're going to implement with regards to artificial intelligence and AI, but there are two things that I'm definitely sure are happening because they're happening right now. And the first is called Search GPT. So for those of you that have done a little bit of dabbling with Google Gemini, how it's got its sort of search function, and it basically works off Google and retrieving information, and it's not that great. I'm not a huge fan of Google's AI offerings. I haven't found that they've been as advanced as ChatGPT or even Anthropic's Claude. But Search GPT has just come out, and it's really going to absolutely change the way in which we search for information. Beforehand, SEO was the big thing, and if your website's not optimized according to what Google thinks your website needs to be optimized to, you weren't going to get found. With Search GPT, that's pretty much going to be obliterated. How large language models are going to be able to find your websites is going to depend on the natural language and the content that you put in on your website. So gone are the days where you're going to need to have specific keywords for a website or search engine to find you. Now the large language models are going to be the ones that find you, and they're not going to be using the same SEO principles that websites are using. So Search GPT, because I'm a plus user, so I'm a paid user for ChatGPT, I've been invited to join a web waitlist, but that's something that's coming. I don't know if any of you have used Perplexity before, Perplexity AI. It's pretty good in terms of search engine. It gives you like a little, for example, if you were to search for something, it'll show you a number of websites that you can actually get that information from. So it's pretty good. But Search GPT is going to be like perplexity on steroids. So again, as a business owner, if we are using AI as a hammer, a new hammer to bang old nails, we're going to get left behind. The way AI is advancing, you're not going to need those old nails anymore. This is not a new hammer for an old nail. This is a new hammer for a new nail. So I really, really, really encourage you, again, get up to date with AI, start using large language models, but look into Search GPT. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be next month, although AI is advancing really rapidly, but Search GPT is coming, and the way in which we get found as businesses online is going to change dramatically. Now, the other thing that's on its way, and there are a number of companies that are making good inroads with it, is text to video. So again, if you are really good at communicating with large language models, being able to create a video from text is going to come a lot more natural to you. So what text to video is exactly as the word says, is you type in what you want and it will create a video for you. I don't know if any of you have seen any of the text to videos at the moment that have been shown. Some of them are a little bit blurry and they're not perfect as yet, but the jump from not being perfect to perfect in AI is very, very small. And there's a number of big players that are really pushing these type of text to video platforms. So again, everything boils down to how well can you communicate with large language models. So implementation strategies. I know it seems really short what I've got in there, but essentially your implementation strategies when it comes to AI is learning it yourself, hiring someone, but the most important bit is just to start. Even if your initial foray into large language models is a little bit awkward or a little bit clunky, I really recommend that you just start with AI. So think about something in your business that you need help with, and just start. Go to ChatGPT, go to Claude is a very good one, which is from Anthropic. Google, as I said, I'm not a big fan of Google, but some people do enjoy it, or you've got Copilot, and just start. Start with your question. What is it that you want from the large language model? What is it that you're looking for? If you think about different relationships that you've had in your life, generally any type of relationship that you have to learn to communicate with one another. Sometimes you meet people and you just click and that's awesome. But generally when you meet people and you want to build a long-term successful relationship with them, it's all about how you communicate with them. And you learn how to communicate with one another. And it's the same with large language models because of the way they're designed. They're built on natural language processing. So how you learn to communicate with a large language model is going to take a little bit of practice. Now, I mean, I could sit and give you the perfect prompts for this and the perfect prompts for that, and they are good. And it is nice to download prompt cheat sheets, etc. But the way I see it is your prompts are just like learning sentences. I taught English over in South Korea for 2 years, and one thing that I found with the education system there was very rote learning. So we would have a class with the kids and we'd be like, how are you? Fine, thanks, how are you? And that's all the kids would really learn is, how are you? Fine, thanks, how are you? And that's how the English was taught in South Korea. The essence of communication is more than just rote learning sentences. And that to me is exactly the same with large language models. Yes, you can get prompts, and some prompts are worth the money that you'd spend on them. They can give you great results. But what's more important is learning to communicate with the large language models. But as I say, just start wherever you are in your journey. Just start communicating with it. So what we have at Biz Insights AU is we have quite recently launched our AI prompt competition. So this was the website that we created from scratch using a large language model using ChatGPT, and the AI prompt competition challenges competitors to use large language models to solve real-world business problems. They compete for cash or other prizes, and they can enhance their skills as AI prompt engineers. So essentially what we've done is we've created a platform where businesses can post their business challenges and connect with AI prompt engineers. So if you yourself are having some problems with communicating effectively with large language models, you're still in your learning journey, but you have specific things in your business that you want resolved, and you want resolved using AI, you can connect with us on the AI prompt competition. So there you can post your challenge. You've got a number of prompt engineers from around the world that will then start to work on your solution, and you as a business owner will get sent their submission. So let's say you put up a challenge there. One of our challenges that we've got on there, which is just a nice fun one to get us started, is for our prompt engineer community to create a nice image for us. So we will get images sent to us, and then we will choose a winner from those images. So for yourself as a business, if you were to post your challenge on there, you will get sent all the submissions that are sent for your particular challenge, and then you can go through them and have a look at which ones resonate with you and which ones you feel are the best. One of the reasons that we really wanted to include business owners in our AI prompt competition, when we were going through the business plan and looking at how to really formulate it, initially we thought, well, we'll just focus it on the competition and we'll just engage with competitors ourselves and with AI prompt engineers ourselves. But through the training that we've been offering to businesses, one thing that we've really found is that businesses have got challenges that can be solved with AI, but often they're not sure how to ask in the right way. And as I've been talking about, it's so essential to be able to communicate with large language models, but your business challenges need to be resolved now, not by the time you've learned how to become an effective AI prompt engineer. So we decided to include businesses within the AI prompt competition so that you can get your business challenges solved now and through AI. The other great thing about it is that when you're receiving these submissions from AI prompt engineers, you're able to see what's actually available through AI. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking at different submissions that have been sent by prompt engineers, you could look and go, oh, I didn't know that AI would look at things in that way, or I didn't think that someone would look at it from that perspective. So it provides you with that data and helps you to be able to communicate with large language models based on how other people are using it, if that makes sense. So what we've got as a door prize for today is we charge a posting fee for businesses to post challenges on the AI prompt competition. But for our door prize, we are waiving that posting fee. So we are offering one of you as a business owners to post your business challenge on the AI prompt competition platform for free. All you need to do is offer up prize money for our AI competitors. So if you have a think about what would be a challenge, now it could be absolutely anything. It could be from something in marketing to maybe something in your supply chain. It could be something to do with customers. It could be building something. It really is up to you as a business owner to think about what is it that is missing in your business, what is it that you would like to have solved, and put it out to our AI prompt competition. You'll put it on our AI prompt competition and allow the AI prompt competitors worldwide to tackle your business problem. So that is essentially what I have for you. I know I've spoken a lot about learning to communicate with large language models, and we do have workshops where we teach you different communication techniques. It steers away from teaching particular prompts because, again, prompts are great, but they're just a starting point. But essentially, it's just really about you as a business owner in thinking about what it is that you need, and then just starting to communicate with the large language models. Even if it's clunky at first, just start, because really the knowledge that you can gain and the expansion that you can gain for yourself as a business owner is absolutely phenomenal. And if I think for myself, I was, as I said, like many of you, just a business owner. I had no data science background. I had no machine learning background. I just know how to communicate. And my journey, I feel, primarily has come from practice, and not underestimating what these large language models can do, but also managing what I can do and realizing that if I'm getting rubbish, it's not because of the large language model, it's the way I'm asking, and then refining the way that I'm asking. So that's pretty much all I have for you. If anyone has got any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I think, again, if you want to sort of do the raise hand things, or Nick, if you want to take on the questions and answers, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we do have a raised hand there. Debbie.
Hi, Alison. That was really good. A lot of great information, so thank you. My question is, you mentioned that Google won't be looking at SEO. So what will it be looking at, and how will it be looking at it? What do we need to do?
It's not so much Google itself, it's more like OpenAI. So they've brought out Search GPT. So I'll see if I've got a link. If you bear with me, I'll pop it into the chat. But what they're essentially looking at is they're looking at natural language. So in other words, if you have popped up stuff, give me a sec.
Then we really need both then, one for Google and one for ChatGPT.
I mean, yes, I suppose so, but honestly, I don't use Google anymore. Between OpenAI or ChatGPT and Perplexity, I don't even use Google anymore. So I'll pop a little bit in there that just talks about ChatGPT search.
Thank you.
Might be a sec. Oopsie. Essentially, what we're looking for is how are you talking about your brand in a natural way. So think about, for example, if I asked you, so Deb, what is your business?
My business is helping business owners to find an easier way to fill their business gaps and to utilise experts in every area of business. We're the global umbrella over business experts and networking groups all around the world. We help people connect, collaborate, and become more visible.
Awesome. So again, if I was listening to that, I'm listening to that in sort of natural language. You've just told me in a very natural way what you're doing. When you were saying that, were you thinking about what keyword am I putting in there? What keyword? No, you're just talking in a natural way. So if I were to search for, I'm looking for somebody that connects with people. I'm looking for somebody that does X, Y, Z. That's what it's going to find. Like I find with Google, this keyword might work now, but then they change the algorithm and it doesn't work anymore. I was reading an article, probably about a month ago, with a business owner that was always, she would do things, or she would do reviews for different cleaning products, I think it was, and she was always like in the first results. And then there were some updates to Google, and she's not even featured it. And now there's all these review companies, and she says they don't do reviews properly. They pay, their companies pay those websites to do reviews, etc. And that's all her traffic gone. And so I feel that, I mean, I've been a bit sort of naughty here, but I feel that sort of for too long, Google has been dictating what small businesses do because they decide what keyword relates to your business. And you've got to go on a certain website and find, okay, well, it's this keyword. I've got to put this keyword in. Now, Search GPT is not going to be here tomorrow. It might not be here next month. It might not even be here in the next 6 months. But this is what's coming. And the way in which we are found online is going to be in how we're able to communicate ourselves in a natural way, as opposed to keyword.
Excellent. Your sound's just coming in and out there, Alison. I think something might be happening. The reason why we've got the break up there is we did have a tech challenge at the beginning of the evening. So Allison her sound is coming through her phone and the video is coming through the computer. So who knows? An update, maybe they knew that she's going to be talking about large language models and AI. So someone's helping this from. All right. Any other questions, comments, or how you might see this working for you in your business, Tom?
Yeah, listen, I'm retired and I'm looking for a business that I can use AI in. So I'm sort of putting the cart before the horse in learning AI and then working from that. I'm involved in currency trading and I'm also involved in marketing, pushing traffic past webinars on Meetup, and I'm learning how to do that, and I want to learn about AI to see if it can help me.
This unhappy trait led many pilots to comment that the speed and
Well, someone got their
Yeah, it was Tom there. I don't think you necessarily put in the cart before the horse there, Tom. I think it's absolutely essential to learn AI full stop, regardless of what business you're going to go into. I think that any and every business is going to be impacted by it. So I think you're doing the right thing, Tom.
Yeah, I understand that. I've heard from somebody else that said you can stumble along on your own, or you can use AI, and the people who use AI will be ahead of the people who don't use it. It's not going to take over the world like Alien, because it just doesn't think that way. And I've got one lady running around with her hair on fire saying, oh, they're going to take over. And I said, who's going to take over? And she said, oh, the AI is going to take over. I said, well, AI is just lines of code in the end, and code doesn't get jealous or resentful. Anyway, so yeah, I've seen the light, and I understand that AI is going to make the difference. Even if I just know about it, at least I can dodge the bullets, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a really good point, Tom, in that it's not so much the AI that's going to take over, it's people that can use AI. I've been having a lot of conversations with a good friend of mine, and she works in a university environment, and they were interviewing someone, and they said, but she's using AI, how do we stop that? And it's not so much about stopping people using AI, it's managing how we are interviewing people. I mean, if somebody gets an answer from an AI, fair enough, but then how do they critically think about that specific answer? Personally, in our business, if somebody doesn't know how to use the AI, I don't think I would hire them, because of the gap between people that can use AI to do things and those that can't.
So my niece recently completed her nursing degree, and she used AI for her final assignment, and she got a high distinction. And I thought, well, good on you for using the system. The system is unable to tell her, unable to distinguish between her plagiarism and AI's plagiarism, then I think that those places need to protect themselves. I was in the police force for 40 years, and I understand that if the system allows you to operate using AI, then so be it. And the AI is not going to take over. AI is not going to take over, because the people who use it are going to use it for specific purposes, and therefore I don't understand how AI is going to become resentful. It's not going to, we're going to use it just like any other software, and it's not going to become resentful and start thinking it's being treated like a slave. It's actually something that's going to, it's a platform. And you use platforms in business, you use platforms all over the place. It's like, I see on YouTube, you can see people that have recipes for making things, and they whisk them with a whisk. And I think, why the hell don't you use a food mixer? You know, there's things you've got to do, and there's things you've got to use.
So that's probably a really good analogy there, Tom. And I think one of the things that is going to happen in this space is that there's a lot of fear that comes around with it, because an incredible amount of change. But there's also a lot of, I was going to say, well, there's going to be some good things come out. There's new opportunities that come out of it. And it's a bit like when horses went out of fashion and came into fashion, or you mentioned the printing, just at another evolutionary point, I think, in our business, which I think you'd probably agree with that too, wouldn't you, Allison?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. We've got a question there from Jeff. But one thing we need to do, Jeff, I thought you were using AI to communicate with us.
It's not even me. This is a clone. No. On a serious note, guys, Allison, for a lot of the people here are new to AI. They don't own agencies or whatever. How many different programs, in terms of software, should you be buying? Is ChatGPT enough for the average person to get a lot of work done, or do they need Perplexity and something else and something else and something? Do they need 4 or 5 different things if there's someone like Nick, or is one program pretty much going to cover most of your bases?
That's a really, really good question, Jeff. Thank you. My personal opinion is ChatGPT would probably be sufficient. The reason I'm mentioning quite a couple of others, so Perplexity works a little bit different to ChatGPT. If you ask Perplexity a question, it will come up with a bunch of like website links as to, well, this is where I got that answer from. It might show you some videos. So I kind of think of Perplexity as being like Google on steroids, whereas ChatGPT is a little bit different. Claude, which I mentioned as well, is another AI tool. It's very good at coding.
Yes.
Now, I haven't used the paid version of Claude because the free version gave me enough, and because I'm able to communicate effectively with Claude, I didn't need as many, or I didn't run out of talk time with Claude, because on a free version, you only get a certain amount of interactions with it. What I would do is I would use ChatGPT, and if I hit a wall with coding and Chat was just going around in circles, I would then troubleshoot with Claude, and it would help me out. So it's kind of like the different language models do have different strengths and weaknesses. What I do want to say, though, is that there are many software companies that are using large language model tech, and they put in a pretty face on the front of it, an API. And they say, well, just put your stuff in here, use our API, and we do it all for you. And that's good. It's like if you went to the librarian at the library and you said, give me a cookbook on Malaysian food, and the librarian goes and brings you the book. You don't have to think, you don't have to do anything. She does the work for you.
Yes.
Me personally, I like to have access to the whole library, because maybe I'm going to get a book on Malaysian food, but then I think, oh, hang on, what about Thai food? I'd rather have Thai food instead. So for me personally, I don't use any of the sort of software that leverages AI. So software that you use to create a website, or software that you use to create marketing content, or software that you use to XYZ. I prefer to go to the source and use ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity. So I'd say as a basic, you'd start with ChatGPT. I've personally found over the spectrum of using them, the Chat is the most consistent. But again, it's because I've learned how to communicate with Chat. Copilot, I have tried Copilot before, but I don't know, it doesn't gel very well with me. Google Gemini, like at all, it's just never really given the same results as ChatGPT. I will say, though, that Meta AI is looking pretty good. And I'm not talking about in like Facebook and things like that. I'm talking if you go to meta.ai, it's been quite comparable with ChatGPT. But personally, using large language models for me is sufficient. Otherwise, you'll be paying so many different subscriptions for so many different pieces of software where you can just go to the source. It might be a bit harder than going to the software where you click. But to me, it's like the difference between using like GoDaddy, where you drag in and drop in your website, or building your website from scratch. We used GoDaddy for our first website, and it was great because you just click and drag and click and drag and click and drag. But when you want to do anything outside of the click and drag, you can't. And that for me is why using ChatGPT to build a website from scratch was just mind-blowing, because I didn't need to be restricted by GoDaddy's what GoDaddy wanted my website to be. So it's the same with the software. You can use a lot of software to do AI for this, AI for that, AI for XYZ, but you're restricted as to what they want you to use it for. If you're using the large language models, you're in control.
Fair enough. Thanks for that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was muted. Mark.
Yeah, hi, Alison. Just wondering, it's a quick question, but I'm just wondering with the rate that AI is moving, whether the career path of a prompt engineer will be pretty short-lived, because it seems like as those language models get better, they'll actually start clarifying the questions you ask and actually help you prompt it better. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
That is a perfect question, Mark. Thank you for asking that. You will never, ever get away from being able to communicate or needing to communicate with a large language model. Yes, the models are getting much better. In the past, my goodness, I used to want to throw the computer out the window because of what I deemed the slowness of the large language model. I would ask it, it would be clunky, and I'd have to go back and forth, whereas now the refinement is a lot quicker. Is it the large language model? Is it me? I'll say it's the large language model. It's not me, but it is. It's my ability to communicate. But we will never be able to get away from communicating with the large language model. Even if it's able to refine its own prompts and do all these different things, you need a starting point. And if you're unable to communicate that starting point effectively, you're not going to be able to get anything from the large language models. So yes, the tech is improving, but we will never be able to get away from needing to communicate because of natural language processing. OpenAI have released voice to voice, where you can also just communicate voice to voice with it. But again, how you communicate voice to voice still questions. And there's specific techniques that you can use, just like with communication with people. There's specific techniques you can use to get the best out of these large language models. So in answer to your question, yes, prompt engineering will certainly change, but we will never get away from it to be able to, whatever we want to call it, prompt engineering, communication, etc., but we will never be able to get away from being able to effectively unless they bring in mind reading, but then still in your mind you're going to have to draft the question.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
We just had a little bit of trouble with your popping in and out there, but I think we got the gist of it, and we could read your lips as well too. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for that presentation tonight. There's probably lots and lots of questions we could have around all that. I might just mute you. I think that's created the problem. There we go. We could certainly have lots and lots of discussion around it, I think, and hopefully, and I see that already, it's really sort of prompted in all of us some thinking about, not what could you use these large language models and AI for, but that you actually need to get started to use these large language models. So if that's what's happened tonight, then I think Allison's done her job, and certainly a fabulous starting point with it all as well too. So let's give a big round of applause, virtual applause for Allison tonight. Thank you. And as I say, she does, or as she mentioned as well, she does have a door prize for tonight as well. And it is for you to craft up well, let's say you've got a problem in your business there, and there's a whole lot of people around the globe there that are willing to go to work with you to create that with the large language models and with AI. So there is a fee to enter into that, which is waived for this tonight. The only thing that you need to do is when you get it back is that there's a prize there for it. So it's a bit like some of the logo designers, whatever. So if you hop onto that website, which we posted in there, you'll see the prize amounts there. I think they're about $100 for some. You'll see the various things there. So it's just providing the prize for it. So in lieu of actually paying for the result that you get, you're offering the prize to people. Have I got that right there, Allison? Perfect. All right. Okay, so let's go and draw that prize. We have our wheel of names there, and everybody's name is in this wheel of names. So you do need to be in the room. So now's not the time to leave. So because if you do and we draw your name, we're just going to draw it again. So let's spin the wheel, see how our lucky winner is of this prompt competition. Let's spin the wheel. There we go. So hands on desk, virtual drum roll, please. And our lucky winner tonight, oh, look at this, eh? Could it be Jeff Field? It is. There you go. So the man there who loves all of this new tech and AI,
He does
Jeff.
indeed. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Nick and Allison. Awesome.
Excellent. Congratulations on that, Jeff. I know that you'll probably put this to really good use.
You can bet on it. You can absolutely guarantee it.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll connect both of you up tomorrow by email, and that way there you can sort of get stuck into it. So congratulations there. Allison, best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to find out more? Okay, looks like she's typing it into chat. So just give us a couple of moments while she's typing it into chat there, how to contact her. If you've enjoyed the presentation tonight and you want to watch it again, there were so many gems that were in here tonight. It will be up on the SmashGo YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. So if you're not a subscriber there, go there now and click the subscribe button. If you click the little bell after the subscribe, then you'll get a notification as soon as that's uploaded. The link to the YouTube channel is up in chat. Now, if you want to look at it more immediately, it has been live streamed to Facebook, so you can go and sort of watch it there sort of tonight as well. And feel free to share that out. So if you know other people or businesses that might be interested in this, feel free to share that out as well too. What else do we have? I think that's probably about it. Allison says her audio's cut out. So as I say, we did have some tech challenges as usual, sometimes at the beginning there. So we just sort of made it all work. So Allison was working off phone and computer as well too. But once again, thanks, Allison, for coming along and talking about that. And I'm glad that we waited for that month and a half or so, however long it was, to get the presentation you had tonight, because it was different to what we chatted about, but I think highly relevant as well too. All right, folks, thanks for coming along tonight and coming to learn a bit more about this sort of AI sort of communication. And if you want to find out more about it, feel free to contact Allison as well too. And if you didn't win that prompt competition, go and check it out as well too. That's promptcomp.biz, and who knows, your next solution might be in there. Not only are you going to get something solved there, but you're going to help some of these prompt engineers who are crafting their skill in this area as well too. All right, well, that's our session for tonight. So everyone go and have a good evening, and we'll catch you back here same time next week.